Hello, I'm Juanita Witchencure, head of exhibit design for Smithsonian Exhibits.
I'm Elena Saxton, a 3D exhibit designer here.
Hello, I'm Luisa Serradilla, and I'm the SIE intern from the Latino Museum Studies program.
We're going to share with you some of our design process. So we're looking not just at the finished product, but some of the considerations we factor in along the way when specifying materials. We look not only at aesthetics, but also a long list of considerations: flammability, availability of materials, ease of fabrication, ease of installation, size, costing. As Dan was just talking, our cost estimator, we work closely with our cost estimator. Our work is collaborative. We do not only design, but we also have in-house exhibit developers, so we work with them on the content side. And we also work with our in-house fabrication team and our in-house graphic production team. Our work is also iterative, so our design process, we kind of start out looking. I'm going to use this as an example. We're doing a project for the Environmental Protection Agency. We're doing an overhead hanging installation that represents, it's in 3 segments that represent the air, the land, and the water. We started out in drawing form and doing 3D modeling, and then shifted into doing tests to see the image and the text. We wanted to make sure it's legible, so starting out printing on paper, and then shifting to, this is a material that's made from recycled water bottles. It's a fabric that's made from recycled water bottles, but we found that it was opaque and didn't really have the sheerness. We wanted the installation as a whole to feel more. This is a mock-up we did to feel more ephemeral, so light and kind of airy, to be more atmospheric. And so we ended up landing on this sheer material. It also has a bit of a sheen. It's the kind of thing that you wouldn't discover without testing. So that's just showing how our process is iterative. Across the board, we're looking to, we're trying to have more sustainable practices. So we're trying to use healthy materials is how we think of it. So it seems like a no-brainer, but to not use materials that are toxic or harmful to people when fabricating or when just touching the material, being around it. So we're trying to eliminate PVC, polyvinyl chloride. So this is an example of a mural material that is PVC free. And we're also using, here's some samples of carpet. Feel free to touch this later. Carpet that has a PVC free backer. And it's also made from recycled water bottles. So we make an effort to use materials that are either have post-consumer recycled content or that they can be recycled after their use. And I'm going to share one more example of, this is a material that we used for the Arts and Industries Building Futures exhibit. It's called Kriska Decor. It's a metal chain. And then we were able to take it down and reuse it for a project we did for women in environmental justice to live and breathe. It's at the Anacostia Community Museum. I'm now going to pass the mic to Elena to talk a little bit more in depth about a specific project that we did. We designed it and also fabricated it. It's a traveling project called Spark, Places of Innovation, that we did for the museum on Main Street, MOMS, which is a part of SITES, the Smithsonian Institution Traveling Exhibit Service.
Thanks, Juanita. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with MOMS, but their idea is to bring exhibitions to small town rural America and communities. So museums aren't in a museum setting. They're in a community center or a library or your local, who knows what, just whatever space is available for venues and community members to apply to the program and receive this exhibition. These are photos of a finished installation. But it might look very sophisticated, very sleek, but it has to travel. So it has to be disassembled and reassembled many times by community members that may have never used a screwdriver, have very limited installation experience regarding exhibitions. So making something very sophisticated, very simple for everyone to be able to put it together and take it apart and have it travel around to multiple venues over the course of 6 years. So a lot of challenges. This was my first time working on a mom's exhibition. So it was a great opportunity to learn not only from my colleagues, but also from our client, from the mom's team, because they know their visitors, they know their venues, and the wealth of information that they have about durability and transit and visitor studies was just a great resource to listen to and draw upon. So getting into the details, we ordered, or the start of the process, ordering a lot of material samples to test the durability, understand the cost effectiveness, understand weight. You think about people putting it together that don't do this every day, lifting things up and down and not sustaining damage to the people putting it together, but also the exhibit itself so that it runs the course of the 6 years without damage. So we were looking at it, touching it, feeling it, seeing what it looks like in different lighting conditions, scratching it with keys to make sure it would withstand being packed and unpacked into shipping crates multiple times, leaving components in cars in hot weather to understand that all of the adhesives and glues and materials, how they are fixed together, would withstand its tour. Starting with sketches to kind of brainstorm concepts, get everybody on board with the design intent, the direction we're going, working into more 3D modeling and elevations with material samples that we're exploring, buying some of those material samples, running CNC router, programming over it, printing graphics on it, drilling holes in it, so on and so forth, and just learning all throughout the process and documenting what we're learning, not just to inform this exhibition, but the next round. This was a inherited design for the structures of the modular components. The mom's team had used it 3 other times previously. We're happy with the system, but also looking to innovate and improve on how everything goes together, always learning, always growing, how we can make it more efficient, more easy to use. So getting feedback on how we could accomplish those goals as well. Also, just talking a little bit about design following content, how to really capture that spark that's part of the title, that energy of these small towns really revitalizing their communities through innovative advancements in artistic or technological, social or cultural missives, and trying to get the look and feel of design elements in particular to match that spark, to just say it without having to literally say it. So 2 examples of design elements that were heavily tested, heavily prototyped were, we can pass these around, thanks Louisa, specialty finish. We wanted that like dynamic color, eye-catching kind of sense of motion and movement and energy of getting an idea, getting the spark of creativity to be captured in the design itself. And so we tested out a variety of finishes to kind of give that effect. I'll pass one the other direction. Starting with dichroic resin, a product that is very durable, sustainable as well, but very expensive. So thinking about how could we use cost and value engineering strategies to explore other options that would still achieve the same results for the design and the content. Also exploring from durability, a lot of hand-applied finishes like foils and iridescent vinyls that have a beautiful effect, but do not withstand the durability requirement. They're easily scratched off and wouldn't stand up to the rigors of the tour. Finally landing on a dichroic or color shifting chameleon automotive paint that was suggested by one of our project managers. So open to ideas from everyone on the team. It was sprayed onto aluminum sheeting by our in-house paint extraordinaire, Roberto, cut out into these rivers. I'll ask you to pass these around. That kind of wove throughout the exhibit to tie the graphics together. So custom cut, custom inlaid, like glued into all these individual pieces and parts to give that visual effect. Speaking of which, these topographical maps were inspired by small town America, rural communities, how to represent that in a touchable and visual way. Ordering lots of samples, some of which you can see on the counter to the side and touch later, of three-dimensional topography, some very expensive materials that were very durable but out of budget, sourcing other MDF products, solid wood products, and finally landing on what is being passed around now, which is a product called Valchromat. It is made from recycled pine mill wood waste, so the waste generated by pine mills, bonded together with an eco non-toxic resin, so it's super durable, used a lot in children's furniture, so very safe. And the color is integral, so you don't have to worry about finishes scratching off from being assembled, disassembled, and transported multiple times. So landing on something that gave it that spark, that wow factor, related to the concept of places of innovation, evoking a sense of place, and also making the existing structure special to the exhibit content, special to the communities where it was going. Oh, thanks, Louisa. Another important aspect of innovation to the MOMS team was having a lot of interactivity in their exhibit, and really getting their visitors touching and engaging with the exhibition content in new ways. They came to us with a concept for these RFID blocks that you would place on a sensor on a tabletop and have it play a video that was related to the imagery shown on each of the blocks. Thank you. So we brought their concept to life by machining wood blocks into two different shapes, embedding a little RFID sticker, like inset, so it would protect it from wear and tear, being put up and down on tabletops multiple times to trigger the sensor that plays the video. And then also having a graphic image applied over that, the whole thing sealed and installed in the final versions that you see at the top left and bottom right-hand side. But a lot of thought, a lot of brain power from our collective graphics team, our fabrication team, the design team, to make the concept come to life. And as I mentioned, it's a lot of parts. The traveling exhibit has to come apart, be put back together, fits in a space that roughly is the size of this room. Components are like 7 feet tall, but it has to all pack down into about 8 to 10 crates. So lots of structural columns that had to come apart into two pieces to be able to be lifted by 1 to 2 people at a time. Multiple components being glued together, clamped together. Lots of super gluing of tiny little threaded studs into dimensional letters to announce the names of each of the exhibit sections. So a lot of creativity, a lot of care in creating this from all of the develop, design, build team members here. And here's it, 4 copies trying to be wrapped and installed into crates so that they can go to their next exhibition location. So some statistics that I printed out because I don't have a good head for numbers on the spot. But for 4 exhibit copies, there was over 5,000 linear feet of welded aluminum extrusions. That's roughly a mile of aluminum. About 60 sheets of plywood and Valchromats, well, the wood and Valchromat components to make up the show. About 300 printed graphics. That includes like some of the structural panels that are shown at the bottom right. Interactives also needing to be produced graphically, and secondary graphics as well. And then 76 of the topographical columns, and each one was made from about 30 panels and parts and pieces. So it's a lot of moving parts to track and assemble and finish. So we worked really hard to bring it all to life. Any questions? Thanks.
You must have a map for how to.
Yes, floor plans and maps. I think we also did huge Tyvek scaled footprints, so for venues to know where to lay things out. For a traveling exhibit, the question was, you must have a map for how the exhibit goes together. There's also probably a map for where everything goes in the crates. Like all the crates are labeled and color coded so that it's very intuitive and easy to understand what part goes with which section. But a huge floor plan so that venues could get an idea of where all the pieces go, but each venue is spaced differently. Like we didn't have a set floor plan like you would with like a physical known finite gallery space at a museum. So it had to be flexible. So all the components could be installed in different orders. Like there's no linear, like this section has to go first, this section goes next. So tying everything in a way that was flexible for the visitors at various venues to be able to experience. Sometimes certain venues might be too small to host all 6 sections, so making sure that things could be changed in and out as needed depending on the spatial arrangements of the places that it was going. So a plan, but a flexible plan to kind of suggest the best way that it could be presented, but it's not like definitive as it would be in a typical museum. Yes. The question is, have all of the elements held up? We're going to knock on some Velcro mats somewhere. I mean, I think I can say it's held up fairly well. We did make some suggestions for things that would be more durable that we're hoping to really use in the next generation. We're already in talks for like the next Mom's Traveling show, even though we just finished this one. Like it seems like yesterday, but I think it was earlier this year.
It just went out, I'd say earlier this year. So yet to be seen how it holds up. I think it's going to be on the road, all 4 copies, I want to say 6 years.
Yeah.
So it's going to be on the road for quite some time.
From what I've heard, there's some adhesive failures, which is to be expected. We do offer like a warranty to a certain point on our exhibits, and it's called refurb. We try to prevent that from happening, obviously, because we want things to have the best shelf life as possible so that they don't have to be missing from an exhibit, that they don't have to be sent back here to be fixed, but we do offer that service as well. But trying our best to specify materials, specify processes where that doesn't happen. You can't avoid everything. I've heard about crates, not for this exhibit, but others falling off the trucks. And it's like, we can't ensure for that not to have any damage, but we do our utmost to prevent it as we can. Oh, I saw your hand first, and then we'll go to you. For this one, I think the question was, how long does it take for this type of exhibit to be developed and to be complete? You can probably speak to the start of it. I think it happened during COVID.
Feels like a blur. I want to say 9 months, maybe 9 months of design, and then we're prototyping and testing and doing like graphic testing along the way before we go into production.
You had your hand raised too.
During the design phase, is it a fixed design or is it possible to retrofit it based on the locality where it's going? For example, they want to put a local content into the design, or if they want to make it bilingual or trilingual. I just don't know if this travels internationally. So are there considerations for these elements to be built into the design of the exhibit?
Yeah, like customized. The question was, is there a level of customization in the design to allow for the venues to customize it for language or content? I would say yes. There is some flexibility. There definitely were placeholders from the client for specific interactives and town councils to submit content. We weren't involved in the production of that, but we held space for it in the design. For bilingual, this was going to be a bilingual exhibition in both English and Spanish. I believe they presented the Spanish material, unfortunately, as a pamphlet, not within the physical structure, the physical graphics. There was a lot of concern about space. Bilingual is always hard to fit both. And if we're working with a 650 square foot footprint already, it would drastically reduce the amount of content you could offer. But we are always looking for ways to offer that content equally. It doesn't always happen, but that's one of our goals as well. Yes.
In the beginning, you used the word diatomic resin, or was that correct? Okay.
Um,
What's the difference between that and regular resin?
Okay, the question is, we were talking about dichroic resin, and what's the difference between that and regular resin? The dichroic is just that color shifting. Maybe
It's
you could-
rainbowy.
rainbowy iridescent. So it is resin, and then this particular product has a layer embedded between the two sheets of, or the two faces of resin. So it's the dichroic film that's in here is protected by the resin. So it uses resin. It just has that extra iridescent color shifting layer. Yes.
With the nature that this was going to be traveling, you would go to lots of different spaces. What did you view as your base space and layout to figure out the design concept?
So the question was, knowing that it was traveling to different spatial layouts for all the different venues, how did we develop a base plan for that? We actually developed two different spatial layouts. One that was like a long and skinny rectangular space, just to make sure all the components would fit in like a suggested floor plan layout. And we did like a more typical, like big open library community hall type space. So there were two different options shown to just test the layouts, test the angles, test to make sure all the components fit within the 650 square foot footprint. So we did test two base options, but also knowing that there needed to be more flexibility beyond that. Sometimes we'll do three, like having things in a more circular, more linear, more kind of spread out option.
Yeah, sometimes we do an L.
An L,
Yeah.
an H, upstairs, downstairs.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.